A Saab 9.3 wiper motor replacement. I'll also show you how to use a wiper arm removal tool, essential equipment for this job, and an explanation of a Saab 9.3 wiper linkage repair, which is yet another issue on the rather long Saab 9.3 common problems list. You can see that I've already got my scuttle trim off because I've been refurbishing it, giving it a nice coat of gloss black trim paint. So this video isn't necessarily in quite the right order for the way you do things. But first thing, let me show you how to get the arms off, because obviously that's the first thing you have to do before you can take the scuttle trim off. There are a couple of different types of wiper arm removal tool. This is the one that I've got. It also makes for a very good battery terminal puller. Slip rings out of alternators and starter motors. First of all, a little word of caution. There are videos on YouTube telling you how to get wiper arms off without using a tool, and yes, you can. For the most part, you'll probably be successful doing so. But you're not even talking 20 quid for one of these. Is it worth busting your wiper arm for the sake of 12 or 13 quid? Because I can tell you for nothing, I've stripped and busted plenty of wiper arms trying to get them off without using a proper tool. Once I bought one of these, I've never had any problems. You pays your money, you takes your choice. First, with a small screwdriver, pop the screwdriver into here and pop off the little black cover. Then undo and remove this nut with a 13mm socket. A little penetrating oil around the shaft is a good idea, and let it soak in. Now we need to fit our puller. Fit it over the end of the arm. Turn this large nut at the top down so that the legs at the bottom are underneath the bottom of the arm. Turn the middle shaft down until it contacts the wiper arm shaft. Make sure you've got good purchase at the bottom there. Tighten the centre down until it's nice and tight. Now, I've had these arms off myself recently, so I know that this is going to pull off easily. But if you tighten that down and you're starting to get really tight, as in really tight, and it's starting to hurt your fingers doing so, and the arm hasn't popped off, get a hammer, put a couple of layers of protective tape over the end of the hammer, and give your arm a couple of good smacks. And did you see then? Mine jumped off. Unwind your puller and lift your arm off. While you've got your arms off, give the shaft a good clean. Also give the splines and the threads a good clean with a stiff nylon brush or a soft brass brush. Don't use a steel brush. If you only want to remove the linkage and leave the motor behind, then undo these 4 screws here and separate these 2 arms from this ball joint. Just pull up. That's tough on your fingers, so you might need to use some leverage. And don't lose the rubber gaiter. You could, as an alternative, go in and undo this 13mm nut here and separate this short arm from the motor spindle. That's harder to get at, and also you might lose your parked position of the motor. Top tip, if you do find yourself separating any of these ball joints, put them back together with a generous amount of silicone grease and wipe off the excess grease once it's all gone back together. If, on the other hand, you want to remove the whole mechanism including the motor, then undo these 4 10mm screws and separate the connector. Now, the connector is down here. It's clipped into this bracket below this fixing, but my little bracket is broken. Wouldn't you know? My fault. Lubricate this slider mechanism first through the slots and the holes, because it's bound to be dry and stiff, and then with a 4mm screwdriver open it up, and as you open it up the 2 halves will separate. This is the harness side, and with a little bit of manoeuvring, lifting up the front end and pushing it ever so slightly towards the left side of the car, the mechanism comes out. Whilst you have access into this cavity, give the whole area a clean down and make sure the drain point is clean and running freely. Replace the drain valve if necessary. Whilst I've got this cavity open, I've also taken the opportunity to put some sound deadening material in there as well. I'm not putting any foam in, only the butyl stuff, because I know it gets very wet in that area. And whilst I was in this cavity, I also found this patch of rust here on the seam seal. So I've given it a clean up and giving it a fairly generous spray with some Lanagard. Now, I did promise you that I would talk to you about a Saab 9.3 wiper linkage repair, which is a common problem on these cars, and its sister, the Vectra C, Cadillac BLS, Fiat Chroma. These 3 points here, the arms clip onto ball joints. Both arms clip onto one ball joint here, and then the short and long arms clip onto ball joints there. And what happens is the plastic bushes that are here that clip onto the ball joints, they wear. That induces judder in the wiper system, but also when they wear far enough, the ball joints can actually come apart during operation. In particular, it tends to be this one that comes apart, and sometimes what you'll find is that you've only got one wiper blade working and the other one is just flopping around uselessly. If you do find yourself with that problem and your linkages are coming undone at the ball joints, there are two solutions that you can get. The cheap solution is a simple metal clip that you can clip over the ball joints that literally just holds the two parts together, and you can probably put those clips on without even taking this mechanism out of the car. However, a much more robust method is to buy a new pair of arms. Here in the UK, X8R do them. It's about £25 to buy a pair of new arms with new bushes which are made of a harder material that should last a lot longer than the originals, and you can take them apart and put them back together just like I've shown you. That would be the method that I would recommend. You might even be able to do that job without taking the whole thing out of the car. I'll try and find those parts for you and I'll link to them in the description. Putting the wiper mechanism back is of course pretty much the reverse procedure to getting it out, although I'm finding it a lot easier to make the electrical connection first before pushing the mechanism back into place. You need to finagle it around a little bit, but there we go. Of course, don't forget to tighten down all 4 screws, and then just before we do anything else, turn on your ignition and just activate a single flick wipe to make sure that we haven't disturbed the motor from its park position, because if the motor's not in its correct park position, then we won't get the arms in the right place. And of course, don't forget to turn your ignition back off. You don't want to flatten your battery. Now we can fit the scuttle trim back onto the car. You can see here that mine is in 2 pieces where they're normally in 1 piece with the rubber connection in the middle. But over the years, with getting this side open to replace the cabin filter, my rubber split. So I've cut it and the trim is now in 2 halves. Whilst you've had the trim off, put the fixings into a bowl of hot water. I've already explained that in a short video. I'll link to that in the description in case you're wondering why I say that. Now this right hand end slips underneath the back of the hinge here, and it slips underneath the bottom of the windscreen trim. The big holes go over the wiper arm spindles. Also here there's a little moulded in clip that needs to go underneath the glass. Put the trim under the foam and into the shape. As you saw a few moments ago, there are 3 fixings under there, and you might be wondering, well, where are those fixings? Because you can't see them. Well, conveniently, if you feel here, there's 1, 2, 3 very tiny pips moulded into the plastic, which are directly above the clips, so that you know where to press down to clip them into place. From the factory, each end of the scuttle trim has one of these clips in that you have to press down on the centre in order to release it and put the centrepiece back up out to fit them. But to be honest, these clips are absolute rubbish. They really are. So what I'm doing instead is I'm actually using a pair of black 8mm fir tree fixings. But I have actually found some Nissan designed clips which I've used across the top of the bonnet and also on the boot trim to replace these. They're far superior. Again, I'll link to those in the description. And the other side, of course, fits on exactly the same. If yours is still in 1 piece, you'll be folding it down, and there's a flap here that you can fold. I don't have to use that. But don't forget to pull it forwards at this point here to get that clip underneath the windscreen, and press on the little dots again to clip it in. Make sure that you haven't trapped your washer hose, and fit your choice of clip. If you find yourself pulling these foam blocks off, just use some double-sided tape to put them back in place. Put the seal back into place. You'll probably find it's taken a set to the shape of the body, which will help you to get it back into the right position. just press it onto the flange. Although if you look closely you can see where I've cut the rubber hinge point on this scuttle trim. To be honest, you can't see it from inside, so I'm not worried about it. But I am very pleased with the paint job on the trim. And finally, put your wiper arms back. Now I suggest that you position the centre of the wiper, or the end of the arm, just over the edge of the black obscuration band. The arm with this bend in goes on the right hand side on these right hand drive cars, and on the left side on a left hand drive car. In other words, it's on the same side of the steering wheel. Hold the end of the arm in position, lift up the hinge a little, push down at the drive shaft end. If it ends up finally sitting just a centimetre below the edge of the obscuration band, that should be fine. Put your nuts back on. I suggest holding the arm as you tighten them down, and put your little black caps back in the top there. Guess what? I've lost mine. And repeat on the other side, and job's a good one. If you got value from this video, consider supporting the channel in some way, and I shall see you next time.